Welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. Today's episode 10, believe it or not. Today I got my good friend with me, Brandon Gilliam. He is the men's head soccer coach for BYU, and he's an absolute stud.
Gage, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. They've actually won 5 national titles since he's coached there. So he's been the head coach since 2015.
Yeah.
And then before that, he was an assistant from 2008 to 2015. So he's been part of the BYU soccer program for almost 20 years, right?
22 years because I played.
Wow. And then he played before that.
So
BYU.
I played for that. So coming up close to 20 years as a coach and played before that. So yeah.
So awesome. Well, sweet, man. Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. And he's really cool, even like outside of soccer. I actually met him. He was one of my favorite young men's leaders growing up, and we had a lot of good times at campouts, in the cold, and he always looked up to in a lot of different ways. And so I'm excited to have a conversation today.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Well, let's just get started with like maybe tell people where you're from, where you grew up, what sparked the love for soccer. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas. So that was home. Born just in Arlington, just outside of Dallas. Grew up there, and other than 2 years we spent in St. Louis, I graduated high school in Texas, and it was a good place to grow up for sure.
I'm surprised you didn't get involved in football.
Yeah.
In Texas.
So the World Cup came to the United States in 1994.
Okay.
I was born in 1984. And I got to go 2 games that were in Texas. And that's when soccer took off for me.
Wow.
I had 2 loves at that point. It was soccer and basketball. I loved basketball. And I took basketball as far as I could, which was 8th grade. I didn't make the A team because every kid on the A team could dunk at 8th grade.
Wow.
And so I was like,
that's crazy.
All right, longevity, basketball is probably not my sport.
Yeah.
So, but I love basketball, but soccer, when I went to the World Cup and experienced that, I mean, there's nothing like the World Cup. And so that kind of got dug in me pretty deep at that point.
Wow. So you're 9 years old.
9, 10 years old, going into like my first year of like competitive soccer. It's different now with kids, but back when I was growing up, like no club stuff started until you were like U11. Everything else was like YMCA, city rec leagues, right?
Yeah.
And so the same year that I got to go to a World Cup game was just like the same year I was starting like the competitive side of it, right? Going to tournaments and traveling.
Wow. Yeah.
And so then we moved to St. Louis for 2 years, played competitively there, came back, and that's when like soccer really just became everything for me.
What took you guys to St. Louis? Just dad's job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Southwestern Bell, Yellow Pages. I don't know if they even have those things anymore, but he was like an art director.
Okay.
So all the graphic designing for like advertising, Southwestern Bell, those big old yellow books that would go on like your doorsteps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was like an art director. So we went to St. Louis for 2 years.
Heck yeah. And then back to Texas.
Back to Texas, same city, back in Arlington. And
did your dad play soccer growing up too?
No, neither of my parents touched a soccer ball ever in their lives.
Wow.
So I have an older brother, Morgan, who's 16 months older than me. And so we both, he started playing soccer, just YMCA at 5. I started at 4. And so when you have a brother that close, really you can pick any sport. We played soccer in the backyard, in the front room, broke everything we could, right? And that was a big part of my development. If I look back on being able to play soccer for so long, I would say I had great coaches, but the competitiveness between me and my brother, which you probably know a little bit about competitiveness with brothers, that was real.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
It is real for sure, and to this day, it's real.
Never stops.
Beat them at every part of your life.
Family gathering, whatever it is.
You just gotta one up them every time.
Yep.
So playing soccer growing up. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do for a living?
Yeah, professional soccer player.
Heck
Easy,
yeah.
right?
Love it.
What kid who plays the sport doesn't want to go pro?
Who goes to the World Cup?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that was where your mind was at.
That was where I was at.
Heck yeah. And it's funny because, yeah, like my family, we grew up watching NFL every Sunday.
Yeah.
And, ever since I can remember, I wanted to go play in the NFL, but obviously that didn't happen. That's cool. I feel like sports like is such a popular thing in the world, obviously. Mm-hmm. And kids watching that when they're young, like there's so many of my friends that had like goals to be in the NBA or NFL or soccer, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was a goal. So how was soccer growing up in those club teams and stuff?
Texas is, when it comes to soccer, there's like two powerhouses really. It's kind of spread out a bit more now, but at the time there was really two powerhouses. Southern California and Dallas. So like where we were was like perfect place. And the league was called Dallas Classic League. Everything's shifted now. There's all these academies, and the MLS has their leagues and everything.
Yeah.
But growing up, Dallas Classic League was one of the top leagues in the nation.
That's sweet.
And so the two biggest clubs in our area, there's a Dallas Texans and the Solar. Those were like the dominant. And I can remember the Solar team that was my age group. Like every single kid either went straight into the pros or straight into D1 full rides. Like just an exceptional team, right? One of the kids even went over to Manchester United and played over there.
Dang.
So my team, because I didn't live in Dallas, I always played on a team outside, so I didn't have to travel quite as far. Rather than, an hour plus on driving, my drive was like 35, 40 minutes. And so, but my team was almost always third. Like we almost finished third every single year. And then like every 2 years, our best players would get picked off by those teams.
Yeah. Dang.
And that team would fall apart. And then I'd go to another team and we finished third.
Wow.
And then a couple players would get picked off.
Yeah.
It was kind of like this cycle. So always on a competitive team, never like the best in the state. But it set me up for success because, had to just grind at it.
Yeah.
Right. You have a team that might not be in the top 3, but you got to push them and you got to perform. And I played goalkeeper. That was my position.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the perfect scenario for a goalkeeper. If you're on the best team as a goalkeeper, you never get any shots.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't get really any better.
Oh, that makes sense.
So your team's super good.
Because they're good at keeping the ball down the field.
But they keep the ball most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So being like third means you're a competitive, good team. But the goalkeeper's there to help keep you in the games.
Right.
And so I got a lot of action. I got a lot of repetitions during games. So it was a really cool place.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So was that just taking up your whole childhood, like every day practicing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 to 3 practices a week plus an extra training session that was a goalkeeper specific one. And then games on the weekends, tournaments on the weekends. And then it was super expensive too. Like club soccer was pretty pricey.
Yeah.
What were we paying? And this was back in like the 90s, right? So we were paying about $2,500 just for like to play for the club.
Wow.
So that was like our coaching fees and everything. Right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't include any additional tournaments.
Wow.
Just for $2,500 a year.
Yeah, dang.
And my brother and I both had to pay for it. So my parents didn't have the money for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did what they could, right? They took care of us. But at the same time, they're like, if you want to do this, you gotta get working.
Wow.
So I think it was like 12 I started working. So it was either soccer, school, or work. That was about it.
That's crazy. So you had to go make $2,500 pretty much every year to pay for soccer, and then plus the tournaments and stuff like that, the travel, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been married 15 years and still like an odd job that I did would pop up, and my wife's like, how many jobs did you work?
Yeah.
It's like we went to the Jazz game the other day. That's the first time I ever gone to a Jazz game. And I was telling her, oh yeah, I used to go like the Stars and the Mavs games and I'd sell hot dogs.
Yeah.
And because that's what our club would, I'd be in the back making all the hot dogs through the games and make extra money. And she's like, you worked at at the Mavs games? Like, I was like, anything to make some money to pay for my soccer.
That's crazy. So every year you're just hustling to find anything that could pay you something to go pay for soccer.
Did a lot of reffing.
Yeah.
Could go do those for a few hours every Saturday morning, or I did a lot of adult league games on Sunday nights. What else I do?
Because not a lot of places hire, especially at like 12 years old.
Yeah,
So you had
it's
to
hard.
Go find
The
people in
reffing was
ward.
a one that I think now it's like 13 or 14 you have to be, but I think I started reffing at 12.
Pretty young. Yeah.
Yeah, my brother, I think I did 13. This was before, regulations are a little different. He was one of the people, he worked at a grocery store to go get all the carts at
really?
13.
Yeah.
He'd go out and get the carts
Yeah,
and pull
bring
them
them
in,
back.
right? Worked at a driving range, cleaning balls and picking up balls and driving the carts around.
Yeah.
And, anything we could find, we'd go just work.
That's cool. I think it's such a good lesson to learn while you're young, like work ethic, obviously. And then like to go like with whatever you want to buy or whatever you want to have to go earn yourself, especially while you're young. Because like a lot of my friends have talked about this before, but like we're given the new skis, the new season pass, the new Xbox, the new Madden game every year without question, where we got like nothing. Even though my parents did have money, like they gave us nothing growing up. Like
super important.
We could eat and we had our own room, but like super important.
My wife and I are talking about, our oldest is 10.
Yeah.
And because everything's so different, we're trying to figure out like, well, I don't want, because I see a lot of parents do this, which I don't want to do. I don't want to be like, oh, here's your chores list and here's your money. Like that to me is not work. That's just living. Yeah. Right? Like what you do in the house. Yeah. I mean, you're part of the house. You take care of it.
Right. To give them an allowance to go do their chores. Yeah. So
we're trying to figure out, well, what are they going to do? And 13 is, I think, the youngest you can be. And my daughter's already been like, oh, I can ref when I'm 13. Okay, cool.
So she's looking forward to that.
So she's looking forward to it, which is good to see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a parent yet, but I've tried to really think about like how my parents raised me, how like other people raise their kids. Cause I'm nervous about parenting. Like there's a lot of things that could go wrong or right, but.
And you'll do all of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's part of it.
No, it's interesting because like you want to give them like a better life than you had, but also like those hard times like shaped who you became. The
hard ones are everything.
Yeah.
Without the hard ones, like you don't develop.
Yeah.
So you want to give them the hard ones.
Yeah, that's cool. So was there any doubt in your mind like growing up playing soccer that you wouldn't go pro, or like, I mean, I'm sure there was like some of that sometimes, like after a bad loss or whatever, but
a ton of it.
Yeah.
And I was never, I mean, I'm decent size, I guess, for an athlete, but not for a goalkeeper. And I never was.
Interesting.
I grew an extra inch on my mission when I was 20.
Okay.
So I was a late bloomer too. So when you're thinking of a goalkeeper and you think the size of a goal is 8 feet by 24 feet, 8 feet tall by 24 feet.
Okay.
And I'm like 13, 14, wanting to play goalkeeper, and I haven't even hit puberty.
Yeah.
And there's all these other kids who are like 2
feet
like 4 taller
feet
than
tall.
me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all you have to do is shoot the ball above my head and it's going in.
Right. Like 4 feet above your head. Yeah.
So there was a lot of moments. There was a couple teams in that span when there was 2 goalkeepers on a team. And I remember the other goalkeeper was like twice my size.
Wow.
And so, but for whatever reason, my mentality, don't know where it came from really. Maybe it's just growing up with a brother who I competed with every single day. My mentality wasn't like any type of victim, like, well, he's big, I'm not.
Yeah.
And so it was, okay, well, what do I have to do to make up the difference? I have to be faster and jump higher.
Yeah. Go work harder.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was all about, okay, if I'm not going to be the biggest, well, I'm going to have the best vertical.
Wow.
Or I'm going to be the fastest.
Yeah.
Or one part that has shifted in soccer drastically in the last 10 to 15 years is goalkeepers used to be goalkeepers. They would just sit back there and block shots. But now they're very incorporated in the team. And so you'll see if you go watch games now, players are always passing back to the goalkeeper's feet. Well, since I had a brother that I played against every single day, I made it a goal on my team. Any team I played for, I wanted to have the best feet. I want to be able to dribble the ball, strike a ball better than anybody on the team.
Wow.
And that's like super uncommon for a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so that carried me a long way because I had a skill set that no other goalkeeper had.
Wow.
So
Such a powerful mindset to like adopt that
just
young.
to
Like
make a shift.
yeah, that's a mama mentality. Like I'm gonna outwork, out train everybody.
Yeah. I was nothing close to him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
His mentality is a different world, man.
No, it's still
but
freaking,
yeah.
it's really good to just use what you have and make the most of it,
Yeah.
you know. Okay, so growing up, you play through high school and
Yeah.
everything. And then yeah, what's college looking like? How does that all
Soccer
play out?
recruiting's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Division I soccer, you're allotted 9 scholarships. Is it 9.9 scholarships per team, right? That's all that NCAA
Wow,
allows.
every team only has 9 scholarships
9.9
to give
full
out.
scholarships.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right? And most teams are 26 to 32 players.
Wow.
So
only 9 of them.
Yeah. So I had my like every kid, I had my sights set really high. And we lived in St. Louis for 2 years, and there's a school in St. Louis University, SLU. They don't have a football program, so a lot is around the soccer program. And I thought that was awesome. I was like,
finally a school that
homecoming
favors soccer.
games at soccer, not football. Like what? So that's really where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so I went to a camp junior year out there. And I had good performance. Talked to the coach, and he's like, "Yeah, you can probably play here, but I have no money for you. I can't offer you anything." And it was like, it's not even an expensive school comparatively, but it was like $11,000 a semester, something like that. And I was like, coming for a kid who's working to pay for his club since I was 12, that's
a lot.
That's not going to go over so well for me. So ended up turning that down. And the week after that, Chris Watkins at BYU calls me up, and my brother had walked on to that team.
And he's the head coach.
And he was the head coach.
Okay.
Yeah, he was head coach for the men's soccer team. And he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, we want you to come play for BYU. We saw your film from your brothers," because my brother had sent in high school film, which I was in.
Oh, that's sweet.
And my brother played center back, and I was the goalkeeper. So I was in his whole film, right? And he was like, "We want you to come play." And my brother, when he went there, he went with no offer. He's a super confident kid and was a really good player.
Yeah.
And the coach is like, "We rarely have walk-ons." And he went to try out.
And his brother made it.
Boom.
Yeah, your brother made it. Wow.
So stud of a kid, man.
Yeah, he helped you out there.
Yeah. So, but he makes it. He's playing with them. Coach contacts me. "We want you to come play." And because my offer had, what I thought I was going to do, fell through, I was like, "All right, BYU." And I really, honestly, I didn't know even what BYU was until I was like 15.
Really?
My parents are converts.
Okay.
I'm not really a football follower. Like,
yeah.
And so living in Texas, like, I had no reason to ever hear the words BYU. I mean, I heard it, but I didn't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
And so my sister went there. That's when I first heard about it. It's like, "Where's she going?" "Going to BYU in Utah." I'm like, "Where the heck's that?"
Yeah.
Like, I've lived in Texas, and I've been to St. Louis, and I've been to Florida for soccer, but that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
So, so he offers me, I say yes. And it was kind of one of those things of the Lord just taking care of you, really.
Yeah.
Because my mom wanted me to go there really bad. But I had no desire, because I was pro all the way, and I'm going to go play Division I at a big school and then go on and play.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was the plan. And so I went to BYU, and I wish I could say it was like smooth sailing, but it wasn't at all. I remember driving up here with my parents, and because they talked about the mountains being so beautiful, and it was a super dry summer. So we drive into Provo. They're like, "We're here." I'm like, "These are just giant rocks. Like, what the heck? These aren't mountains. This isn't beautiful. Like, what are we doing?" But the guys on the team were awesome. It was a big wake up call, because I was a smaller goalkeeper and I go into a college program with these massive guys. And I just remember feeling like, do you remember what was it, NBA Space Jam with Michael Jordan, like the original one?
Yeah.
Where like all the
huge players.
They come out. And they're that's what I felt like as a freshman walking on this team.
I'm gonna get rocked.
Yeah, and I did. But it was good for me.
And your brother was there playing with you.
So he had left on his mission, so he wasn't there.
Gotcha.
So my parents literally drove me up, because I was going to work summer camps before the season started. They drove me up, spent half a day with me, dropped me off at some house I don't even remember, and drove back to Texas.
Wow.
Like, "Hey, good luck.
Yeah.
Figured everything out.
That's a wake up call right there. Yeah.
So BYU was it then. So that's where I was.
Wow. And you played that year and then you ended up going on a mission, right?
So I actually, you want to hear that story?
Yeah, let's hear that story.
So I never thought about a mission.
Really?
Never thought about it.
You said your parents were converts.
They were converts at about 28.
Okay. And how old were you?
And they met after that. So they got married older.
Okay.
And then
so you grew up in the church then?
I grew up in the church.
Okay.
But yeah, they met late 20s, got married. I think my mom was 38 when she had me. So
okay, 10 years.
Yeah,
after.
a bit later.
Yeah.
So we grew up in the church, but they didn't grow up in the church.
Right.
And so it was very different than being here in Utah for sure, right?
Being raised by,
Yeah. So, and they didn't have anybody guidance of like what it would look like. They were awesome. My parents did an amazing job. But the way I parent now with the gospel in the home is very different
than how you grew up.
Than how I grew up, because they were figuring out as they were going.
Interesting. Yeah.
So with every kid and every decision, like we played every single Sunday soccer because that's when you played. But we'd go to Sacrament and then go hit our games, right? So mission was never on my agenda or my plan at all. And they didn't force it and they didn't push for it. Obviously, my mom really wanted it.
Yeah.
But didn't force it on me.
Then you roll into BYU and
then I roll into BYU.
Yeah.
And my brother's on a mission.
Yeah.
And every freshman who joined with me that year come into the first year and they're all gone.
Wow.
I'm like, what the heck am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I actually remember I had to retake my Book of Mormon class, taking it during the summer. And I'm working on my papers and I'm like almost done with my papers. And I'm like, it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm doing my Book of Mormon essay or something. And I took my papers and I threw them in the trash.
No way.
Yeah. Call my mom the next day. I said, Mom, I'm not going on a mission.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? But I was like, the only reason I'm going is because everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any desire to go. Like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
So I go tell my coach, I'm like, hey, I'm not going. And he's like, okay. And so I play another year.
So you did 2 years.
Yeah. So I play up till Christmas time and my brother gets home.
Yeah.
And so he comes and joins back on the team. We live together. And that's when my world just gets flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Because as a goalkeeper, you have to enjoy like the grind way more than you enjoy the game. Because that's all you do. In the game, you make 7 to 8 saves.
Wouldn't you say that for every sport though? Every position? No.
Goalkeeper's a different
okay, it's a different
so
beast.
In a game I'm gonna take 7 to 10 shots.
Well, the entire game. Yeah, I get that. Okay.
In a training session I'm gonna take 500 shots.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So you just pound your body like constantly in training and then you do like so little in the game. But all that pounding has to happen for those small moments, right? And so the goalkeeper is it's a unique position where you do so much work. Like a winger, yeah, they're going to get more repetition, but they're also going to be sprinting and involved the whole game. Or a forward, or you're involved. Whereas a goalkeeper, you're not.
Right.
You'll have some games where you go 10 minutes without even touching the ball.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense.
And so I always loved that aspect of goalkeeping. I loved training more than I loved games. I just loved to go out there and just see myself get better and do that work, right?
Yeah.
And so my brother gets home from his mission and we've always competed at everything. And all of a sudden there's this guy who I can't compete with anymore. He's such a different person. Like he has all these qualities that I cannot touch. Like I can go beat him in soccer. I can go physically do whatever, right? But he has all these qualities that I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, he just came home a totally different person.
Totally different person.
Wow. Where did he serve?
He served New York, Spanish speaking.
Wow.
Cool mission.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden that piece of me of that just personal performance, like wanting to get better in life, started looking at him being like, I want some of that.
Wow.
Like I want to be a better person. Not only do I want to be a better soccer player, but like I'm looking at him and he's set up for life. Like I'm setting myself up for the next 5 to 10 years, but then what?
Yeah. Interesting.
So then like this desire is like, I want to go on a mission. So I stayed for 2 years and then I left.
Wow.
Served in Philadelphia.
How was that?
It was awesome and probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Like Philadelphia is not the city of brotherly love that you know. So you didn't get to
think of all the Philly movies like Invincible. Yeah.
I was downtown Broad Street, kind of in the lower class area. Like every other row home was boarded up. That's where I spent my mission.
Dang, the hood.
It was, and I never felt uncomfortable. Like growing up in Texas, my high school, I wouldn't say I was a minority, but we were pretty, like the school was mixed. So I grew up around just different cultures in Texas. And so it was totally fine in being in the environment, but it was rough because people weren't like
friendly.
Yeah. They weren't like, hey, we're doing good in life. What? Yeah, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
They were like, my life sucks right now and I'm having the hardest day ever and you're going to come knock on my door.
Yeah.
So, but it was awesome. I loved serving out there and it was, I mean, cliche, but it was the most important thing I've ever done by a long shot. So, but my mission ended up being very different in the sense of it took me a long time to decide to go, right? And then I finally got out there and I actually had to come home 3-4 months after I got out there for knee surgery.
Oh, dang. How come?
So Turkey Bowl.
While you were out on the mission?
While I was out there.
No.
I've never played Turkey Bowl.
Yeah, but you did while you were out.
I hate football even more now. No. Yeah, I just landed wrong and then didn't think anything of it. And then one day we were tracking and I step off the curb and I just fall to the ground.
Oh, wow.
So I tore my meniscus and I tore like the meniscus is like a little U shape.
Wow.
And I tore it like all the way around it. So it flapped over.
Oh my
Gets caught between the bone and just this pain just shoots through the body and I just fall to the ground.
Wow. So you tore it, but that you didn't feel it until...
You don't feel it. Like you don't, because if it's laying flat, there's no pain.
Oh, interesting.
But the second it gets folded over, it shoots pain like no other.
Dang.
So I think I just got shot. Like somebody shot me in the back of the leg.
Like that bad.
Yeah, it was that bad. I literally fell to the ground.
Yeah.
And so we get back to our apartment and I call my mission president. I'm like, President, like I did something to my knee. Can I call my trainer at BYU? And he's like, for sure. So I call my trainer and she's like, what are you doing? Got a question for you.
Yeah.
And I explain it to her and she's like, you tore your meniscus. So tell my mission president to go and get the X-ray, the MRIs, and it shows the tear. And so they send me home to Texas.
Wow.
To get it. Now on a meniscus, there's two things that can happen. You can get a scope, which they just come in and cut off the part that's torn.
Okay.
And so if you have a little tear, they'll just scope it. And within 4 to 6 weeks, you're completely normal. Like you didn't even have surgery.
That's crazy.
But mine was a huge tear. And so they pinned it up with 7 pins. And so to do that, though, you have to do 7 weeks without any weight on your leg. Like,
no weight.
No weight for 7 weeks. I ended up getting an infection that like went up my leg too. That set me way back.
No.
But it was like 6 months later and I still wasn't cleared to go back to mission.
Wow. That's
so I ended
terrible.
up going back to school.
So that was like rock bottom.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
Like every question you can think of.
Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't even want to go. And I find a passion to go and it's like ripped away.
To go, and then you get your knee jacked up. Wow.
So, but this is a piece. This is probably the most spiritual moment, the most needed moment of my life, though. 2 weeks before I hurt my knee, I remember when I went out on a mission, because pro was my path, right? I wanted to go pro soccer. So I was like, listen, I want to go, but I don't know if I can do 2 years. That's a big chunk of what could be my career. And so I'm going with the idea of like, I'm going to give it my all and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Just take it a month at a time, pretty much. Yeah.
And I get out there and about 2.5 months in, just that moment clicks of like, God's given me everything. How can I not give 2 years? If he's given me everything, how can I not give 2 years? And that moment just hit me so strong that I grabbed everything that reminded me of home, put it in a box, stuck it at the top of the closet, and like, here we go.
Wow.
Mission full force.
Wow.
That was the first time in my life that I put God first.
Wow.
Like I never questioned, God or about Jesus or anything, but I never put it first.
Wow.
Until that moment.
And then a month later,
I'm at home.
Knee. That's crazy. So 6 months, you still aren't clear to go back out. And where are things at right then?
So that was like summertime, midsummer.
Yeah. And
I remember jogging a lap. That was like the first time I was allowed to jog was 6 months in. I jogged a lap on a track. That was the hardest lap of my life. I hadn't like jogged, done anything. Muscles
crazy.
Are just gone.
Yeah, dang.
And so that's when I just was like, I'm going back to school in fall. Semester starts in 2.5 months. I'm just going to go back. And so I went back to school. And so it's like, I didn't feel like I had the window available to like now push another almost close to 2 years.
Right. Because you just gave up another 6 months. Yeah. That makes sense.
So, and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be with my knee. So, and I think it helped the progress too, because then I was thinking soccer now. And so then the work rate to try to get my legs back where they needed to be increased. And I got back to school where there's our trainer and she could help. And
right.
So
then back in soccer.
So
this
then
is
here
crazy
we go.
Story. I know you've told me this like growing up, and I remember loving it, but that's why I wanted to have you on so I could record it. But that's crazy. That's actually crazy. So how we didn't really get too much. How did those first 2 years at BYU go? And then once
they were awesome. I got really lucky. The way it goes in college is you usually have like 3 to 4 goalkeepers per team. And you do that for practice purposes. Like you need multiple keepers for practice. But only one goalkeeper plays. Like you don't rotate during games. So it's a hard position. But I got lucky that I came in and I was able to play quite a bit my freshman year, which was awesome.
That's cool.
Rotated a bit with the senior. He had some injury stuff. And so I got a lot of time. And so that was a lot of fun. And we were playing collegiate club at the time in the fall. And we went to the national championship that year, ended up losing in the final.
Dang.
And I played some of the games, but in the final, the senior started. He ends up getting a red card. And I have to go on for a PK. That was my first moment in the national championship game.
That's crazy.
So they end up scoring. I went the right way, but I didn't get to it. They score. We go down 2-0. And we ended up getting a goal, but we couldn't get a second. So we ended up losing it 2-1.
Dang.
But we transitioned from that season into the spring where we went into our first semi-professional league. So BYU, because of just Title IX stuff and the balance in sports where everything has to be balanced, we don't sit in the athletic department. And so we're not Division I, but our team is very good. And so we were trying to figure out like, well, where do we take the team? And so they decided this league called the PDL. And at the time you had the MLS, which is their top tier. Then you had USL, and then you had the PDL. So it was like third tier professional, but not paid, right?
Yeah.
And so we bought a franchise and moved into that first college program ever.
Wow.
And really it kind of sits above Division I.
Wow.
So it was a fun season, but a big wake-up call.
Season 2.
That was season... So going into spring and summer after my freshman year.
Right.
And I think we went 2-15.
Wow.
We got destroyed.
Yeah, you guys went from being the big dogs to
to the bottom of the bottom of the barrel.
Gotcha.
So we got destroyed, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so still no mission plans for me. Yeah. So I'm sticking around.
Yeah.
And my mom's wanting me to go. And I was like, well, for sure, I'm waiting for Morgan to get home.
Yeah.
And I want to live with him.
Yeah.
And so he got home and we played a season together.
Gotcha.
And that's when I left. And the second year we did way better. I think we were 500, something like 7-7.
Oh, that's good.
So
your brother helped with that, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, he brought in some good mentality, but also we recognize. I think you can't work harder in training unless you know the competition that you're going against, right? So you can only work as hard as what you think you have to perform.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? So if you don't know that there's a higher level or that your team has to perform at a higher level, then you can't really push yourself past
you just get comfortable.
Not even comfortable, just like a knowledge of like, right? Like we are training to win and we know what that looks like.
Yeah, how hard it will be. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden to win was way harder. And now we know what that looks like. And so training's increased. Our fight at practice increased, all that type of stuff. And, and we knew we had to, and we played a little bit different too. Yeah. Whereas when you're the best team, you can worry more about offense. When you're the worst team, you have to worry more about defense.
Interesting.
Right? We're going to win games 1-0, not 5-1. Right?
That's interesting. And then, how'd those last 2 seasons go?
Yeah. So then I went on the mission, came home. First season back obviously was not fun. Yeah. Body was just in pain. Hadn't played in a year, plus the surgery. And I was just trying to get myself back. I didn't play much that year at all. And that was pretty hard mentally. Yeah. And I would be honest to say that I didn't deal with it that well. Like I did not deal well with sitting on the bench. It was not something I was comfortable with doing. I was just
pacing on the sideline.
Yeah, that was hard for me. But then got back to it. So I ended up playing 3 years after, because we weren't a Division I sport. We didn't have to abide by the NCAA rules with just 4 years to play. So I was able to play for 5.
That's cool.
So then played my junior year and did really, really well. I think I was like second in the nation goals against. Wow. I had a great season. Yeah. And the team did really well. We had a really good team that year. And then went into my senior year and I finished with I think at the end of that year was number 1 in the nation goals against. It was like a 0.5 average.
That's incredible.
Which is like 1 goal against you every other game, right?
That's really good.
So I had a great season that year.
Brandon's freaking good. Like freaking good.
I had my moments.
So pro soccer was still on the radar,
so right? Pro soccer, and it's looking good. Yeah. RSL was here, and it was fun because we were a semi-pro college program with no real restrictions around the NCAA. So we kind of got to interact with RSL quite a bit. And they didn't have any type of farm league, so they would use our players when they needed extras. And so my junior year is when I started kind of getting some opportunities to go train with RSL. Oh, cool. And Nick Raimondo. And Nick was a stud. So good. And so it was really fun to get up there and play against them. And we had games against RSL. I mean, I remember we had a game at RSL Stadium against them, BYU versus RSL. And it was like
Real Salt Lake. Yeah. For those of you that
Real
don't know.
Salt Lake. Yeah. But like there was like 7,000 people that came out.
Wow. You love that.
It was awesome. Yeah. They beat us 1-0. We held on for our dear lives.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. But working, going to school, playing soccer, like that was the life. And getting to live with my brother. So all good stuff going on. Yeah. And career felt like it was going in a pretty good direction. Trying to go professional. So I'm getting good looks with RSL. Ultimately didn't go pro. Got really close.
Tell us what happened.
So my senior year, I met my wife my senior year. So going into my last season, I met her around Christmas and we started dating. And I was training with RSL that year, but I also worked at a sports store called Scoreboard Sports. It was mostly soccer. They did like some wrestling and some other stuff, but mostly soccer. And my wife was a freshman playing for the women's soccer team. So we started dating, and it was 4 months into it maybe. And I remember having a conversation with her dad, and he was basically like, either you guys are breaking up or you're going to get married. Like
4 months in.
Yeah.
That's the Utah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so he's like, this has gotten too serious. You're spending too much time. Wow. You're coming to family stuff. Like, where are you guys going with this?
Dang.
And so, we start talking about it. And he probably wouldn't have said that if I hadn't been 24. Yeah. Right? Like an older guy, returned missionary.
She's probably 18, 19.
Yeah, like So, so we start talking about that stuff. And it was an interesting moment in my life because I was really close to going pro. And two things happened that summer. Well, one of them was I was assistant manager at this store. And I always knew like soccer was probably going to be something I did. Like I went into school thinking mechanical engineering. That was like my first thought. Had some fun with that. Wasn't super great at it, but I really enjoyed it. After the mission, I switched my degree to rec management, youth leadership. And I was running a goalkeeper academy. And I was having fun with that. And I was running at this store as an assistant manager. So I kind of felt like the store might be something I'd end up doing. And so middle of summer, playing, working, and my manager was out of town for a week. And I was the assistant manager running the store. RSL came to me, and there was a reserve league. They're like, hey, we want you to come with us this weekend to go play FC Dallas. And I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Like, here's the moment. Like, I've trained with them for so long. Here's the moment.
Wow.
But I was running the store and there was nobody to cover me.
No.
So my manager's gone out of town. Call
your brother. Yeah.
Nobody has like any of the skill sets.
Yeah,
like
to run
I'm the person. Like it's a small store, so you can't just go, hey, like I need somebody to cover me.
Yeah.
I ended up telling RSL I can't go.
Dang, because
I got to take care of the store.
Wow. And
when I was going through that process, it was an interesting process because I've worked 15 years for that moment.
Right, to go pro.
Like to go play in a game against FC Dallas.
Wow.
And that was the moment I kind of had to like just reel it all in and be like, am I going to go pro? And I started to look at all the aspects around it. If I get engaged and she has 3 more years to play, can I go pro? Right? And started doing all the math around, if I go pro, like what's that look financially? What's the next 10 years look like? And that was pretty much the cutoff. Like right then and there, it was, okay, I'm moving in a totally different direction. And it was the weirdest moment because I was totally okay with it. Like for 15 years, like I grinded away for this. All you
wanted, yeah.
And then all of a sudden the idea of taking care of like a spouse was way more important to me than taking care of like a pro career. And like, I haven't had a single like regret ever. And I was totally fine walking away.
Wow. How did your wife feel about that? Like you walking out on your dreams? Like what did she feel like that was the right decision too? Obviously, she probably preferred that one.
Yeah, for sure, right? I remember after we got married, her mom made a comment. It was like, well, if you ever get a job somewhere else, you know, you can come visit her on the weekends. Like she's not leaving.
Wow.
No, but like she's been supportive about anything I've ever decided to do.
That's cool.
And she made probably the best comment ever to me. This is like, I'm going to throw this out for any married couples. Because this was the best advice. She doesn't even know this, but the best advice ever. I was working at the store, and we had been married maybe a couple of years. And she said, I come home, there's been some issues, obviously between owners and managers and assistant, like just stuff goes, right? If something goes wrong, somebody's going to get mad at somebody. Somebody has to take the blame, right? And I was complaining about something. And it kind of had been building up, right? Or sometimes stuff just stacks. And I come home and it's been like a week and I've complained every time I've come home from work, right? Yeah. And she just looks at me and she just goes, I don't care how much money you ever make, but the second you come home and you're not enjoying your job, you need to find a new job. I was just like,
it's great. That's great advice. Fair. Yeah, totally.
Fair, because if you can't come home being happy, your house isn't going to be happy.
Right.
And she noticed it like super early on.
That's awesome. Yeah. Go Nicole.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Rocked it.
Yeah.
And so that was when I shifted into coaching full time. So I was like, okay, I think the time at the store is done. Let's go coach. And so I had, when we got when we got engaged is when I started coaching. So I went straight from playing to coaching the same year.
Yeah. So you were already coaching a little bit.
So I had been coaching on the side with youth. And with BYU, I finished that summer playing. And in 2008, that fall, started coaching. Immediately. Yeah. So it just worked out.
But you were still doing the store and coaching for a little bit.
For a while, for a few years, I did all of it. And I was running academy, I was running the store, I was doing BYU coaching, like
all three.
All of it.
Yeah. And then she told you that. She dropped a bomb on you.
Yeah.
And you decide to quit the store then?
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, it's time to be done with the store and see. So I was still just an assistant coaching. And then I went into just kind of really pushed my goalkeeping. So, my academy was running since like 2005 with training goalkeepers. So I put a ton of time and energy into that. Went and got like all my national certifications, went all these coaching courses.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's like, all right, here we go. I'm going to be a coach.
Yeah, that's crazy. So how long did you run the academy then?
So it still runs.
So you still do it?
Yeah, it's called Better Goalkeeping. BG, Better Goalkeeping. I don't do as much. This year is the first year since I started it that I don't do that much anymore.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just because my kids are old enough that I'm coaching their teams.
Yeah, that's
awesome. Which is fun.
Yeah. Lucky kids.
Yeah, I was working so hard to help other kids get better.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, I have a great talent in this. Like, my kids are playing the sport. I better probably help them too.
Yeah.
So I got into coaching with them, and now that takes a ton of time.
Heck yeah.
So, but it's a blast.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the academy still runs. I have other goalkeeper coaches who help out with it. And we manufacture gloves overseas and sell those and stuff.
That's sweet.
So that's fun.
I love that. How did that transition go from playing, wanting to go pro to like coaching?
Way easier than I thought. Really did. There was a moment. So I finished playing at 24. Got married right a few weeks before my 25th birthday. And I was a goalkeeper coach first season, and then I was an assistant coach from there on. And because I had been doing it with youth, and honestly, when I was a player, I ran a lot of like the goalkeeper stuff.
Yeah.
And
the summer camps too. Huh?
And I did summer camps since 2002.
Yeah.
So I'd already done all of this stuff for so long that is super natural and a lot of fun. And so I just jumped into it. The only hard part really was transitioning from being somebody's teammate to somebody's coach. So like the youngest freshmen or sophomores on the team, very easy. Because a senior and a freshman, you're almost like a coach to them in a lot of ways, right? You kind of give them orders.
Yeah.
And so those ones were easy. It was the ones who were like 1 year removed from me or 2 years who were close, who you were friends with, who you had side conversations with, right? That was kind of the funny dynamic that was a little bit harder.
Yeah. At the beginning especially.
Yeah, because you're like, I'm going to come over here and talk to the staff. And we're going to talk about who's going to be playing.
Yeah.
And then you're my buddy, right? Yeah. So that was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But it transitioned pretty easily. So
that's interesting because I feel like, a lot of leaders fall into the trap of like loving the person, whoever they're leading, right? And like having that really solid relationship, but then not holding that person at a high standard, right? Because you're like, you want to be buddy, and sometimes those tough conversations are harder, especially with people that you really like and they like you, you know?
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow. So now you've been coaching since 2008, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what, so how'd you get the head coaching job?
Yeah.
You were assistant till 2015.
Yep. And, there was a moment where I was like, can we make coaching work like as a family?
Yeah.
I remember one day particular being in a room at my house and just like, I opened up the bank account and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How in the world am I going to raise a family doing this? And I was really close of just like trying to find something else. Like coaching's not easy to make a living off of. I've been like very, very blessed to be able to do it but it's not easy. And so as an assistant coach, I was not making enough to take care of my family. And then I was doing all my stuff on the side and still barely covering everything, right? And so that question had really come into play around 2014, 2015. And the head coach for BYU, Chris Watkins, credible mentor, he was also the associate head coach on the women's side. So he had been coaching both teams, but the women's side obviously is where he got paid, right? The men's team, being a club, didn't have the financial backing. And so he kind of had to make a choice because the women's program had just flourished and they had grown so much. He couldn't do both. And so he had to make a choice. And so he obviously is going to choose the women's team because that's who pays him.
Right.
But he had to make a choice and made that adjustment. And so the head job was open. And that was kind of the same year I was looking at potentially jumping out of it. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, let's go for this.
Wow.
And so I got the job. And so again, it's like domino effects of where the Lord's placing me. Yeah. Right. Somehow where I wanted to go to school didn't line up. And then Chris Watkins calls me. I end up at BYU when I don't even know anything about school really.
Yeah.
And then I was going to go pro. And then for some reason, I decide not to go when it's available. And now like I'm about to step out of this and now it's available.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. And that's cool. Kind of how it just worked for me.
It's like Steve Jobs, like, I don't know if you've seen his commencement speech at Stanford, but he talks about how like so many people try to connect the dots looking forward and you can't. Like you can only connect the dots looking back. And it's like cool that you've kind of like, you've been guided at every step of the way, and looking back, you're probably like, oh, all this stuff had to happen for me to, because
for sure.
Like, that's cool. So obviously you've been coaching for a while. What are some of like the big lessons you've learned as a coach?
So many of them.
Advice that you'd give somebody.
So many of them.
Yeah, I bet. We could do a whole nother episode on just this. Probably.
I had a conversation. We went on a winter camp out this weekend, and on the drive back was just me and one other leader. Yeah. And he was asking me questions kind of along this lines about different stuff. And because I think a lot of people search for like the secret sauce. Yeah. There's no secret sauce. There's really not a secret. Not. You can't get like 2 or 3 pieces and be like, oh, now I can go be successful. Yeah. Like there's 2 things though that always have to be present, I've noticed. Like throughout of all the stuff I've done, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of cool stuff. And anything that I've seen that has been successful has had 2 things in it. And that's a level of sacrifice. Something has to be given up, right? Like if you want to be the best athlete, like look at the Kobe Bryant stuff. He was in the gym at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Right. Like what'd he give up to be able to say, I'm the best out here.
Interesting.
Right? So there has to be a level of sacrifice, and your level of sacrifice will dictate your level of success. So when
I've never heard it explained that way, but that is so true.
And you get to pick it though, right? And it's not a good or a bad. It's just, what do you ultimately want? So when I look at BYU men's soccer, and we've won 4 straight national championships,
so baller.
5 in 6 years. Yeah. And we have talent, and there's other teams that have talent. And so I know very much what we have to do over a calendar year that makes sure that we do more than anybody else. So all the teams that are chasing us because they're chasing us and they're putting in extra effort, right? Like, well, if we don't give up more, right, we're not going to have the success.
Right. That's cool.
So there has to be that level of sacrifice, and you get to dictate what that looks like, right?
Yeah, because going back to when you like joined that new league at BYU, like you guys had to go put in more work in the off season to go compete the next season. And like, that's what, all the teams are doing, like that you beat this year. Like you have to go do more this season than last if you want to maintain the title. That's cool.
So sacrifice is one. That's the other one is suffering. You have to suffer. Like I've never had any growth in my life that didn't have some level of suffering. Physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is, you're going to go through some suffering. Those are the 2 things that I've just always noticed that are in there. And when I look at every single season that we've had success, there's been a level of suffering. Sometimes it comes at the beginning of the season, sometimes in the middle, sometimes in the end. But there's this moment that I've noticed every single year that we go through kind of like a little crisis. Like, we're good, but we're not performing the way we should be. And we're suffering right now. We're not scoring the goals. We're not beating teams the way we expected. And this past season, it happened at nationals. Like, the way we build our system is we don't really care too much results in the first half. We want the results at the end. And so everything's a progression. We want to peak at the end of the season. We don't want to peak in the middle or early.
Interesting. That's cool.
And so we build our whole frame on that. And so going into nationals this year, we should have peaked. We weren't. We had so many small issues going on, if it was physical or emotional, mental, that games were super tight. And after our first game, I decided to completely flip our whole system of play. And we played the rest of the tournament playing different style.
Wow.
Which we hadn't done the whole season.
Wow.
And that was suffering. Like, cause you're like, I hope these guys like trust me.
Yeah.
Cause I'm about to just like change everything on them. And they did, and we won another one.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
But that was our suffering as far as a team.
So suffer and sacrifice, sacrifice to me sounds like you have to do more, give up more than other teams, other coaches are willing to go put, the inputs in to get the result you want.
Yeah.
And then suffering's just like basically surrendering to knowing that bad things are going to happen and things aren't going to go away and your way, and to be able to pivot when needed.
Yeah.
Is that kind of...
Yeah, for sure.
That's
because
really
the suffering can be, let's take one of my players, let's say they're having a great season, maybe a forward, and they're scoring a ton of goals.
Yeah.
And then we hit the middle of the season, they have an injury. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it sucks.
Right? What are you going to do? Both that player and the team, because you just lost one of your top players. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so that player has to figure out a mental edge of, well, can I play through this, like the pain?
Right.
Or do I have to fix myself before I can play, depending on the injury?
Right.
That's going to come no matter what. And I mean, every athlete knows that. And it's life. Who doesn't go through life without some suffering?
Right.
So like last year for me personally, like this is super personal, but last year my dad passed away on Easter.
Oh, dang.
And it's like, we didn't see that coming. Like, it was not expected.
It's out of the blue.
And that was suffering, like just pain. But then it's, what's the pivot? How are you going to adapt to it? How are you going to take it on? What's your next phase? Because we all have to go through it, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's losing a job, right? Like, maybe we build a big business and then it just all of a sudden the economy changes and you lose your whole business. Like, that happens all the time.
Right.
So the suffering will come, and it's always how you pivot on it.
Wow. It's really deep, and it's true. It's true. Like, I was at a Tony Robbins event and he said there were 5 truths. And one of the truths is like, life will bring pain.
Yeah.
Like pain, like just knowing that you got to know that, you got to expect it. You got to prepare for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, how do you adjust to the pain, and like, what do you do differently going forward? And yeah, ultimately, who do you become like through that?
Yeah.
Like you could get stronger. You could like
wreck you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people on both sides.
Yeah. And everyone, yeah, some different pain like hurts you worse than others, but
yeah.
No, that's really cool. There's so many things we could like go in depth on, but just being respectful of everyone's time here. What, like, obviously, so you're head coach for the BYU soccer team. You have a family, you're a husband. Like, what does success look like to you? Like, if at the end, like, let's say 50 years from now, Brandon Gilliam dies, like, what would success look like to you?
50 years? We're going 50?
Or let's say at the end of your life.
It's fun because I can remember, I got to tell a lot of my life story here. And I can remember sitting exactly where you're sitting in that phase of life. Like life just has phases to it.
Yeah.
And my current phase, when I look at my life, there's nothing I care about more than my 3 kids. Everything I think about, I feel like, is just about them.
That's awesome.
And it's such an important part because my daughter's 10, my son's 8, my little girl is 5. And studies say that basically your influence as a parent goes to between 12 to 14. After that, it's their friends and their surrounding environments that's more influential than you are.
Wow.
So I made the decision because I was rec management, youth leadership. So I studied all about youth development in school. And I made the decision of I was going to sacrifice as much as I could financially, like to stay away from some work that I put more time between those ages. Because then I know I can increase my workload in 10 years.
Yeah, because you have the most influence till they're 12, you said?
12 to 14.
Wow.
After that, it's their surroundings.
Limited.
It's their friendships. Like who are their friends? They look to them more than they look to you.
Wow.
So that's like my whole world right now.
Yeah. You're like, I got these key years.
Yeah. And I want to do everything I can to help them in their life and give them the tools.
So cool.
That I hope will benefit them. Right.
Yeah.
So that's my current phase. And that's all like when I think about it, like obviously my job at BYU, I love my players. And it's a joy to work with them because they're such good guys.
Yeah.
This past season, we had 24 players on the roster and 23 were returned missionaries, with the 24th going on a mission to Mongolia this summer.
That's awesome.
So just like such a good group to work with, and they're a joy to be around. But when I think about what I think about most is those 3 kids and how can I influence them and help them.
That's so cool.
So
I'm even like reflecting a little bit, like when I was 12, 13, you like kind of get this vibe of like too cool for your family, too cool for your parents. And like, but also like when you are with your friends and, not around your family, like at school and stuff, like you really do think back to like what you were taught and like the examples of your parents. 'Cause they do like influence you, like shape who you are those first 12 years. And my dad
build your base.
Yeah,
right?
Totally, your foundation.
Yeah.
Or not, right?
Or not.
Right.
Truth.
And I remember like my dad, like growing up, he's like, who are your friends?
Yeah.
What do they have you doing?
Yeah.
Saying, watching, but who do they have you becoming?
For sure.
And like,
that's such a good question. Who are they having you become?
Yeah,
it's a good question.
He asked me that question so many times growing up. Like every time he dropped me off to a friend's house or whatever, and I was just like, yeah, Dad, like shut up.
There it is, right?
Like, but he asked me that like ever since I was little, and like it totally is crazy because you grow up with these kids, let's say 6th grade, and you go to like junior high where you're not at the top of the food chain, right? You're a bunch of different schools are coming together, and you see some friends that you were friends with in 6th grade who go off and hang out with different friend groups, and ultimately their whole life trajectory changed because they got in with like
the wrong group.
And it's crazy because you're like, I was best friends with you, like you were totally different, but now your whole life trajectory changed because of who you decide to associate with. And like part of the reason I started this podcast, Proximity is Power, is like you really do become the average of the 5 people like you're closest with, and like your friends matter. Yeah. And your associations, and you're realizing that like you have 12 years to sell them on being good human beings for society. Otherwise, they're probably not going to listen to me from 12 and on as much,
I mean, I hope I'm still cool to them.
Yeah.
But you never know.
You never know.
I mean, I know I went through my phases where I was a straight turd to my parents.
Yeah. I think everyone was. Yeah. At some point.
And I kind of, this is going to be the hardest part for me because I like to have a grasp on everything I do, right? As a coach, you want to have a grasp. But I've also learned in coaching, when you get the best performance out of somebody, when you don't hold them too tight, meaning you give them freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I say, hey, here's the principles that we're based on,
mm-hmm.
and then here's your freedom, players always play better, right? This is the same thing with teenagers. Before teenage is when you get to like really hold them in. But at teenage, it's like, here's my principles. We've taught it, you know it, but also here's your freedom.
Yeah. Your curfew is this. You can use it how you want to.
Yeah, right? Like every teenager wants ownership on their life. That's what they're searching for. Like, I want to be able to make my decisions.
Yeah.
And you hope that what you've taught them before that makes them make good decisions. That's like the hope.
Yeah.
So that's the piece from coaching. I hope I can not be over like bearing as a parent, where I can be like, you're going to fall on your face and be okay with it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. Watch them suffer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right in front of you, crying to sleep, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I know like a lot of my friends have talked and they're like, I don't even want kids in like today's society. I'm like, if like you need to have kids to go help society, like you need to go raise good kids. Like if we need good kids now more than ever before.
Absolutely.
And like you need to go have kids to go help that, you know, not just be selfish and not have kids. But
it's the greatest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah. That's cool.
It is the greatest thing. You think you have joy and happiness now when you have like my daughter 10 years old and she learned something new. Or actually here's a very easy example, teaching my kids to ski.
Yeah. Love
like
skiing.
Watching them learn to ski and being out there.
Yeah. And
like my little 5-year-old, we taught her last year at 4.
Wow. Yeah.
Like moments like that, you're just pure joy.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the world that matters more than just watching her ski down by herself.
Yeah.
Like
I bet that's cool.
Little kid.
Yeah. Just flying down the mountain.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, last question I'll ask you. Like if somebody's watching this and aspires to be more like Brandon Gilliam, what advice would you give somebody that wants to be more like you?
Oh. That's an interesting question.
Or like what's something that you've done that's shaped you that everyone should go do?
Yeah.
I mean, you've mentioned a few. The mission really was pivotal.
Yeah, so like we talked about it. I think, and it's hard in this society, but I think that kids working at a young age, or at least having to find a way to do things they don't like. Like nobody worked at a young age and was like, oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Like there was no job I had like working at a concession stand at a tournament that I was like, yeah,
I want to go do this today. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the issue for me in the current society with kids growing up is not enough kids have to do things they don't like. Whether that's a job or whatever it is, you can probably send them off to a ranch for the summer. I don't really care. But like kids need to do things that they don't like and they need to do it more often. Yeah. So for me as a parent, that'd be like my biggest parenting thing. Like make kids do things they don't like. Yeah. And learn that that's just life. Yeah. It's not a good or a bad. It's just if something has to get done, you go do it, right? When you have a job at a concession stand, I can't be lazy when the nachos need to be refilled. It's just, you have to do it. Right. That's one of the best skills in the world to learn is when something needs to be done, you just do it. You don't think bad, good, anything. You just do it. Do it. Yeah. And then do it again. And then do it again. And again. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's really good advice. So you basically say like, go learn how to work really hard and go do hard things that put you out of your comfort zone. So with rec management, I love the outdoors. So my kids all know how to rock climb. They start at 3 years old. Really? That's sick. They all can go canyoneering and like rappel themselves. Wow. They can all ski. Like I don't. You don't mess sugarcoat things, right? My daughter has done temp. Now she's 10. She's done temp 5 times. Wow. She did it first time at 7. Hey, we hiked it. Remember that? We did for young men's. Yeah. So I think the more you can get kids to do things where they learn that suffering's not bad,
Yeah.
the better off they're going to be in the future, right?
So good.
I also think that don't save people from suffering. Don't come in and save them. Let them suffer a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, this is a random example, but like sea turtles, you know, like
where they have to make it out.
They have to, they have the eggs on the beach, and then the eggs, they have to get out of their shell, and then they have to get to the water themselves. And if they get help, they're not able to survive, you know, in the ocean by themselves. Like have to climb themselves, you know, from the beach to the water. But like, it's true, because you probably want to help them in that, like watch them struggle.
Absolutely.
Like you want to pick
Absolutely.
them up,
when you see a kid in pain, you're like, oh, it tortures you.
Yeah. But also you're like, I know how good this is for him and his character development. That's really cool.
And I guess the last piece I'd leave would be on the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I know like you've done a ton of stuff with summer sales, right? And I know like the thing that is wrapped around with a lot of college kids who go out summer sales is like the finances. But I think it's probably different for you because of the way your dad taught you. That, like, finances are a bonus, right?
Totally.
That's just the extra that you get outside of it. There's a lot more to it for you.
Yeah.
So the sacrifice, everybody has to figure out what they're willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So for me in soccer, I was willing to sacrifice anything. And as a coach, I will go and figure things out. Like I will sacrifice my time, go do more coaching education, watch video, like whatever it is, I'm willing to sacrifice in that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, like a lot of people tie things to finance, but I think you just have to have a motivation that you're willing to sacrifice. And then you can be successful in anything you pick at that point.
Totally. I agree 1000%.
Yeah.
Because like this summer, like even talking to kids that are thinking about coming out this summer, I'm like, there's things you'll gain that are even way more valuable than the money you could earn. And they're like, you're just saying that. Like no, really, like the work ethic you learn, huge. Like if you come into the summer with like a work ethic level of 5 out of 10, like you'll level up. If you're at an 8, you'll level up.
Smile through failure.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fail. My nephew went out this summer and sold.
Really? Let's go.
And I told him, I was like, listen, the first 3, maybe 4 weeks just are pure pain.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to come home every single day.
Every day, multiple times a day.
So I was like, just commit. Don't even commit to the whole summer. Commit that you will go 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because then you can start to see some growth and some good stuff out of it. But before that, you're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah, no, totally. Because you're out there and you don't know what the freak you're doing. And you're talking to 60 people a day that didn't invite you to their house. And you have to convince them to like you and to buy from
believe
you. That. Yeah.
On something you might not believe yet.
You could be a scam, right? Yeah. And like 59 or 60 out of those 60 people are going to tell you no. And you just have to keep showing up the next day with a smile, you know? That's really cool. And yeah, I wanted to quit my first summer multiple times. And my dad's like, well, if you quit, you don't have a house here. Like, you can't stay with us. My dad did that.
There you go. He gave you the suffer.
He did.
He gave it to you.
You're homeless then. Like,
love your dad.
Yeah, no, it was really good for me. But like, he legit is like, Gage, like, you got to go figure it out. Like, you're not coming home though. And I'm like,
it's cool.
Frick. And I had like $60 in my bank account. I'm like, I'm about to like die out here, you know, lowest of lows. And I just committed to like the sacrifice and the suffering of like, hey, I'm going to wake up earlier and train every day. I'm going to work hard every day. I'm going to control what I can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to commit. And sure enough, at the end of the summer, I started like it's slowly selling more than like my cousin who brought me out there. And
nice.
And it was like the biggest. Like, I remember flying home from Columbus, Ohio, just like tears on my face. I'm like, I just did the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. And it's cool that I made good money, but it was like, what was cool was like, I knew I could go do anything after that, you know, like the confidence.
That confidence you can't get anywhere else, right? Yeah,
totally.
So you suffered, you sacrificed.
I went through the ringer.
And that's true. Like what it makes you feel, that the value you feel as a person at that moment is so cool.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was life-changing. It just gave me so much confidence to go attack the next thing. And it was funny because I remember in high school, I was like, oh, this summer's going to be easy. Like I was a football captain. Like I'd done this. I was a lifeguard. But like the summer smacks you in the face because it's not a 2-hour practice. It's
you don't get away
12
from it.
hours a day, the entire week. Even on Sundays, you have the day off, but you're just thinking about, oh, I got to go start this again. And it's a grind like no other.
Yeah.
Like
I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it.
You could. You totally
No, if
could.
you put me in a shop to sell something,
you would dominate.
that people come to me. Yeah. I could sell like the roof off that shop.
Yeah, but you don't.
But going door to door, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, but you would crush it. You would lead the #1 team in the industry. But no, really cool. But awesome. I love your advice. Like, go do hard things, go sacrifice, go suffer, and it'll make you better, and it'll make the people around you better. For sure. You go help them do that. Yeah. And I love it every year, bringing rookies out who never done anything like this, and you're just watching them just die, suffer. Like they come into the morning meeting just look like they just got rocked.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, I love this for you.
Yeah. It's so good for you.
It's so good. But anyway, that's awesome. Dude, thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely.
This has been fun.
It's been a blast.
We could do a whole nother episode and talk more leadership, like tactical stuff, parenting, like really cool. But if you guys got value, which I know you did, share it, like it, subscribe, go follow, rate the podcast. Like, it's really time consuming and expensive to do stuff like this. And shout out to the Jimmy Rex's team here at the Rookery for editing, and we just show up and have a fun conversation. But
it's a really cool setup.
It's fun. But yeah, go like, subscribe, and go follow Brandon Gilliam. Where can people find you?
Instagram, just Coach Gilliam 0.
Heck yeah. And I'll put his Instagram link on the description, so you guys can go check that out. But go give Brandon a follow. Go support BYU men's soccer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go.
Let's get another.
Let's get another in 2024.
Yep.
Let's go. But yeah, thanks again, and until next time, peace out.